Elton John and Mick Jagger.
Mhm.
Well, he got there on his own, and I applaud him for that. Nobody ever helped Kenny, but he had terrific focus and focused on what he wanted, and he didn't let anything get in the way. You see kids at Tanglewood who play for the orchestra, they're just as focused. You can't do that and have another life.
Well, and he sacrificed his personal life.
Well, not
That comes
exactly.
through in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a very good sportsman too. He had time for that. He and his brother both. His focus
One
was
thing that I didn't understand was he had said how he always wanted to play with the Beatles, and how wonderful it was at the 50-year celebration that he played with the Beatles. But I played it. I watched on YouTube, and the Beatles had their own drummer. So I didn't understand when he said that his dream finally came true, that he played with the Beatles.
because those were handpicked artists for that program. The man that I think it was Don was who planned that program handpicked the best musicians he could. And I guess he thought Kenny was, because Kenny was written up as the best, so he wanted him.
But he played for the Beatles, but not
Yeah,
with
no, Steve, I thought he
Well, two of
played
them were
another
already
time.
dead.
I thought he met Paul McCartney another time and
Oh.
played with him.
Oh,
Yeah, at
And-
different
and Ringo.
times.
Yes.
Well, I've had fun now listening to John Mellencamp
yeah, me
and
too.
even Bob Dylan,
Yeah,
and really appreciating, I'll say, the drum riffs, that you go from the artist's song and the meaning of the song, and then you just start to hear the music on its own with the drums
hmm
as part of the riff between verses in the songs.
Also, sometimes how much they depended on the creativity of the drummer to come up with drumming sequence that would complement and enhance the music, that the idea of the music. And I also had never quite really appreciated Ringo Starr until I read this book and then started watching Ringo Starr. I thought he just always did the same thing, like dum 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 dum
With
dum.
his head,
Yeah.
with the head going. You know what he said about Ringo? He said he is one of the most underrated drummers, a very good drummer. He didn't get his due, and Kenny wrote a big article about him. He really revered him. He thought well of him. And as far as being the main thing in drum, he always looked at his playing as part of a group. He said, "I'm not the only one."
hmm
So I thought that was a good lesson to learn.
That really came through. Yeah,
Did
I
it?
mean, well, yeah, I mean, to have such a singular drive and not have it be about himself, I thought was a very, very beautiful thing.
hmm
I think-
It speaks highly of him.
Thank you. That was sort of built in. Once he got that, he's that way. And if things stopped, he found another way. He never stopped. He found the ways to get out of it. Now he's become part-time inspirational speaker when he plays. You can go on YouTube and do Kenny Aronoff. You'll get to see more, or you'll hear him play.
Is he going to come out with
Most-
Kenny Aronoff's greatest hits?
No, I let them lead their own lives. I actually had a friend say to me early in his career when he wasn't quite on top the way he is now, "How could you let your son go into music? I would never let my kids." My ears were full of smoke. And I said to him, the difference between your kid and mine is passion. You don't get in the way of passion. There was no way on this earth my husband or I could have stopped him. No way. He was that determined.
Yeah.
But he really
Oh, I let
added
him live there. What?
he really added the quality that in order to break through, you also had to have, I'll say, courage to continue to put up with, well, all the different values that were circling around. And while you could be a talented person, you necessarily weren't going to break through and become part of the rock and roll scene. And I mean, he says there are a lot of people who are left by the wayside, even though they're very talented and had natural talent.
Well, he's very determined. Also, I understand he's very easy to get along with in the business and that he's likable. But I told you, he was so determined, so focused. If he couldn't do this, he found another way to do that. because he wouldn't stop.
Well, should
Did I
we let
tell
this
you-
should we let this likable character into our book club?
I'd like to see him. I haven't seen him in
Because
months.
here he is. Let's get him. Let's welcome him.
All right.
Right.
Where are you? I don't see him.
Give him a sec. He'll get it.
In
He's
the
getting the
corner.
videos. Let me-
In the corner of the screen.
There he
There he
is.
is.
Hello, Penny.
Wow.
Welcome.
Not on my screen.
Wearing the same outfit as the cover of the book.
I don't see him.
I don't see him on my
Different
screen.
glasses. Different glasses.
There he is.
Scarf. There we go. Same scarf and all.
No, well, what
Let's
it
see, How
is,
does that look?
different scarf. You know, I figured out when I start realizing, trying to develop what my brand is and try to make it authentic so that you look, it's amazing how you can see if somebody's faking being a rock and roll star or they really are. And what it is, you have to pick the clothing that really truly is who you are. And I also noticed that when you on TV, since I do a lot of TV, that they only see this. So that's why glasses, these things,
Mhm.
this, you know, tattoo, bracelets, that's all people see. As a matter of fact, when I did Seth Meyers, the show, I did that for 4 days as a guest drummer when my book came out. I flew from Germany. I had done a show the night before in Germany, got up very early, flew to Amsterdam, and I went, damn, I haven't changed my glasses for 6 months. I got to come up with some new glasses. So I went to a high-end store. There was in Amsterdam, they have a really nice mall in the airport. And I asked, do you have anything that's extraordinary, like behind the counter? And they pulled out like 8 glasses, and I found a pair. Then I fly to New York. The next day I go to the studio, and I sit on the drum set, and I go, wow, this stool is high. And then I wait a minute, where are the cameras? I went, oh, wow, I'm not changing the drum stool because my face is right where the
Great
cameras are.
place.
And so what I did, every night I would observe myself on TV and go, well, because the stool's so high, you're kind of slouching over and you get a wrinkle. So the next night I would adjust my shoulder. I mean, my point is I'm totally aware of how, that aspect of who I am because, you're on TV, you have to have a certain presence, but it's got to be authentic and real. It's got to be real. And then, so basically I tell everybody, I sleep in these clothes. I wake up with glasses. I always, you have to be prepared 100%. And
All
to be,
times.
and I never,
The que-
because I live in LA, I mean, I've been nailed by TMZ in the airport.
God.
I never, ever go out of my house without looking appropriate. Like I shave, I make sure I look good, because you just never know who you're going to run into.
But Kenny,
So the question is,
I
are you
didn't,
wearing shorts?
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
Kenny, in the book, it sounded like you never did sleep.
Yeah, pretty much. I would sleep 4 hours a night and thought that was the coolest thing because I thought, wow, if I'm sleeping only 4 hours a night, I'm getting 4 more hours than most people. But then as I got a little bit older, now that I'm 28, I realized, I started reading because I'm into health. I went, if you don't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, it's extremely unhealthy and you'll take years off your life. And I went, oh my God. So because I'm wired so hot, I try to get 7 hours of sleep, but I wake up probably 5 times a night. I'll wake up after 4 hours and then I will try to go back to sleep. And if I can't get back to sleep, my secret now is I take some carbohydrates, like maybe 6 chips, like corn chips, and that'll eventually, and then I start reading, and that'll convert to sugar, and then I'll go down again.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Michael?
Can you talk about the process of writing the book and how long it took and the research and how you
yeah.
and
Yes.
working with the editor?
Okay, first of all, the editor was the lifesaver. So I was doing an interview for Joe Satriani's book, and the writer said, God, he was more hyper than me. He was like, oh, I want to do your book. I want to do your book. And I'm like, I says, what's involved? He says, oh, it's easy. He made it sound like, you do a few things, the next thing you know, you get an Oscar. Well, it wasn't. It was a nightmare. He started interviewing me like once every 2 weeks. We just talk and talk and talk. I took his lead. He got me the book deal before it was done. They submitted. I was kind of in his hands. The bottom line is it got to the point where then I felt like I had to I had to have some key people interviewed like that had a big effect on my life in my career, which was obviously if you couldn't get John Mellencamp, there was no book, in my opinion. So getting John Mellencamp, Bon Jovi, because that was a big session, The Blaze of Glory, Melissa Etheridge, who just was very impactful, and Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, John Fogerty. I was trying to get people that this was really calling in some favors, and I'm very fortunate. But at that point, I was starting to read the chapters that he was writing, and they were horrible. They didn't sound like me. So then I started taking on days off on tour. I would spend 14 hours in one day with coffee and room service and go over one chapter over and over again until it sounded like my voice. And finally, I got so frustrated, I literally had the phone one day in my hand and a checkbook in the other. And I called up the publisher and said, listen, John, this book, excuse my language, this book sucks. I said, I can't stand it. I said, how much do I owe you to buy the book back and burn it, bury it?
Wow.
And that's where he said, whoa, 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 relax. An editor will fix all of this. And by the way, the book was 600 pages. It was too long. The magic number is 325. Just like in music, the magic record back in the day was 2.5 minutes, and then it went to 3 minutes, 20 seconds. So I went to New York City. I was in New York doing something, and there was an editor there that this guy thought would work with me. He was a drummer. And I went in like, I don't know. We talked, and I gave him 3 chapters. Wow. He cleaned it all up. He got rid of like incredible stories that aren't in the book. But he said he knew how to make a book flow. We have seriousness, humor, crazy stories, because it is rock and roll. He knew how to. So I let him do 3 chapters. I was blown away. So eventually we get the book done, and it was like 4 years. This is now 4 years. Now we go into this process of me editing what he edited, because he got some things wrong. And it was bam, 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 back and forth and back and forth. And then the day that I had to hand it in, the cover, I looked at it and I went, I don't like it. And it was that picture, but it was in color. And the font they had was so amateur. So I called them the pub. I'm thinking, this is my only autobiography. This is it. So I called up the publisher and I said, I hate the cover. And the publisher went, well, we kind of like it. I said, okay. Let me say this. I am not Sting. I am not Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, but I want what they like. That's what I said. I want what they would like. And so I said, this sucks. So somebody turned me on to an artist, like a real artist, who also understood photography. And he immediately took my picture, turned it into black and white, did some weird stuff to make the black really push out. And I immediately went, I love it. So that was that. Spent 2 weeks picking out the right font, getting the right font, the right size, the right color, because every time you change the font, it moves, it affects the picture and the whole layout. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But at some point, I think the last week I read the book, I just sat with coffee and then at night some wine. I'd read through the whole book, take notes. Then he'd edit it. Then we'd read it again, take notes. He'd edit. It went from 18 pages, 12 pages, 6 pages, 4 pages, 2 pages. I was pulling my hair out. He was pulling his hair out.
Obviously, you did a good job on the hair.
Dude, I had a full head of hair.
Oh
That's
man,
a
I know,
lie.
brother.
I have a question for you, Kenny. I read your book and I loved it, and I have to say, on a personal note, it made me feel a little envious that
Good.
kind of camaraderie, the intensity of the life that you led,
Yeah.
and the brotherhood that you felt with your fellow musicians. But my question is, to what extent, like the Beatles were very influenced by other cultures, like from
Yeah.
Indian music. To what extent were you influenced by maybe somebody like Tito Puente in Latin rhythms? And what do you think of that, or the Indian tabla?
I was influenced by everything. What happens is when you're a musician is you get, well, in life in general, you get pigeonholed. Oh, that person's that. So in my world, it's like, oh, he's a rock drummer. Oh, he's a jazz drummer. Oh, he's a country drummer. Oh, he's an Indian drummer. And I remember thinking when I was a kid, I just liked playing music because it was fun. If you want to go deeper, think about this. As a little kid, when I played the drums, it literally created endorphin, serotonin, dopamine. It made me high. And I was like, oh, this feels good. And so without knowing anything other than this feels good, that sports, everything that elevated my energy, I was drawn towards. Being around people, making them laugh, made me feel good. It all worked together. So when I was growing up, mom and dad had on the turntable jazz, a lot classical music, and a lot of like show tunes. Because they grew up in New York, so I was influenced by that. Obviously, when rock and roll came in, I gravitated toward rock, but because of my jazz influence, I was splitting outside of rock. I mean, I did it all, and so that ultimately made me a very unique, diverse drummer. And there's some other things involved. For example, this Don Was, who was in the book, one of the greatest producers ever. That guy was the one that hired me to do the Highwaymen. That's Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings. The same guy that records with those guys does not go on tour with the Smashing Pumpkins. The same guy that plays with Mellencamp doesn't go on the tour with Smashing Pumpkins. So I had all these opportunities. Somehow my reputation was this guy can do anything. And you want him on your team because he motivates the room. He's stable. He gets the job done. He's a workhorse, a great attitude. So this made me suddenly, my discography, there is nobody on the planet that has my discography. It's so diverse. The same guy that worked with Leonard Bernstein does not play with Celine Dion or Ray Charles. Ray Charles, I mean, oh my God, or Buddy Guy or B.B. King. The same guy that records with Avril Lavigne, Alanis Morissette, and Michelle Branch, all the girls, doesn't usually play with the Buddy Rich big band playing big band music. And so I got the breaks, I got the opportunities, but I always came through. So I'm very open. Now the Indian music, I have not. So now, as you saw at the end of the book, time is the most valuable thing in our lives. So I have to make some decisions. I'm a workaholic, hyperachiever. My mom gets dizzy when she hears what I'm doing every day. The thing is that there are things like studying Indian music at the highest level would take up too much time. On the other hand, learning one Indian beat, one raga, one dot 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 digga dot 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 digga 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 dot dot, and apply it to the drum set is applicable. You take one idea and you bring it into the music I already play. That's how you bring these influences. But the biggest thing is that I'm open to anything and everything. That's the biggest thing. And doing it authentically.
So Kenny, the other remarkable thing was following your career and all of the people you played with, you were a supporting person and could have had a big ego that would interfere with, I'm not going to play with this guy, or I need a
Right.
bigger
Yeah.
part. And you subjugated that to be part of a team, to make
Yeah.
music as a whole.
Absolutely. That's a great point, and that's what's, yeah. I call it the CCC. I don't know where I got it from, but when you walk into a studio and Elton John is there, or Mick Jagger, or Paul McCartney, or whoever, I have a great ability of knowing, going right into the studio, go right to them and connect with them, and then communicate with them. Once you have connection and communication, now they like you, and it makes it much easier and better to then collaborate. And because I have the personality trait of the pleaser, and also the hyperachiever and the stickler, those qualities, this is, I didn't know any of this while it was happening. I'm looking back now, that I had the right quality to, well, as Don was said in the book, I motivate the room, I save sessions. For some reason, it's in my personality to want the artist to enjoy what I'm doing. I want the producer. I want the other musicians. I want to elevate the team, and to do great, because that makes me feel good. I'm just wired that way. Now, I've worked with some producers that I'm going like, they don't know what the hell they're doing. And they'll tell me to do something that is so stupid. And I have to just do it. I have no choice, because I understood that I'm in the service business. I am a hired gun. I am in the service business. And and there's another thing I didn't talk about in the book that I learned from this great guy that I tell my mom about, Keith Ferrazzi, who's a 7-time New York Times bestseller. It's Ferrazzi, and I had dinner with him a couple of months ago. And he's a very big team guy. He takes people, companies from like millions to trillions, billions and billions to trillions, and he's worked with all these presidents. His thing, he talks about co-elevation, and what co-elevation is like, being a team player is one thing, but the next level of co-elevation is, I want you. Let's say you're the bass player. I really, really need you and want you to be great. It's not just about me, because if you're great, we end up being greater. And if all the musicians play great, and I really want them to play great, it's not just about me. If my part is great and theirs is not, that song may not make it on the record, and it will never make it on the radio. So that's what co-elevation is, really wanting your teammates. You care about your teammates so that we can win the Super Bowl. I believe in that. It's really, now if I want to be the leader, and I don't want to be that guy that I am, then I have to start my own band. But even if you're the leader, you want your musicians to play with you, to be on your team. It's like Tom Brady with the Patriots. I mean, he walks on the field. His team respects him. He is a team player. Yes, he's a superstar quarterback, but he understands, I need those other 10 guys to love me, to be great. What's more is the other team is enamored by him because he has such an incredible reputation. They're in awe of him also. And the people in the stadium are in awe of his presence, and the people watching him on TV. That's the man I try to be and aspire to be. And it comes from a place of being humble, being, of course, a badass at what you do, but showing that you care about the people you're with. And it ends up, everybody benefits from that.
So the book also has drugs in the title, but you didn't say much
No,
about
not
No, it
drugs.
people who
doesn't.
got into trouble.
No,
Doesn't have drugs.
doesn't. It's drums. I purposely went sex, drums, rock and roll. And the reason why I came up with that title was, in rock and roll, you know that old phrase,
Yeah.
sex, drugs, rock and roll, let's have fun.
Right.
So I wanted people to immediately realize, who don't know me, go like, whoa, what's that? That I wanted to grab attention. Now the publisher went, Kenny, the first word is sex. Is this book about sex? I said, no. I mean, it'll be in there because obviously the businessman, but he says, well, So that's why I did a disclaimer at the beginning. I immediately went and said, if you're looking for a book where the drummer had sex with 3,000 people, can't remember the number, this is not the book. I mean, I went right to it. But I like the whole sound of it. The only time it's backfired on me is because I'm an inspirational speaker. And when I do these corporate speaking events and I get in an environment, I'll always ask the people who are hiring me, look, I have a book. How do you feel about this book with that title? Some people are a little bit like, nah, our clients are a little bit more conservative. I'm like, I don't know, fine, whatever. But I still felt like it was. I wanted to be. I thought the title just says it all. This guy, it just says it all. So I went for it.
How did you translate or transfer into doing the inspirational speaking part of it? I mean, there are drummers and there are musicians, but to make that connection and to do inspirational speaking, I can see by the way you talk and who you are that that's
Yeah.
a perfect place for you. But how did the connection happen?
That's a great question. It actually started from the book. I mean, I already had spent 30 years standing in front of people doing drum clinics. But
Teaching, yeah.
yeah. So I'm comfortable in front of people, but to have a speech that leaves people with takeaways that will be empowering in their life. That's a whole nother ballgame. So when the book came out, I put together a show. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you guys. This is the control room, by the way. This is where I record. This is like where my engineer is. That's like, the electronics, all the microphones go in there. Now, across the hall is my drum room, but it's also where I'm going virtual speaking. And the reason why I'm showing you this is you'll see. So, there's my drum set. But
Oh, we're not getting that.
Yes, we are. Yes.
Yeah, there we are.
There you are. See,
But we can't hear it, Kenny.
Yes.
Well, can
We
you
can't hear the drums.
Well, of course.
Not playing
Oh,
yet.
stop.
So
There.
there's the drums and all the micro, but here are some cameras. You see the camera? And this is where I speak from. And I have a monitor. I have lighting all around the room. I have another camera right there that's on the drums. And I can go, and there's a controller right there. And what it does is I can go from, and then that's what I watch. That would be my screen, what we're looking at right now. I can see when I do a presentation, that's the Zoom, the monitor for me. More lights up there. Of course, that's if I get people who want to have a drink. But I never mix drinking with work. So anyway, the point is, I started to.
Where is he? Where'd you
We
go?
lost your video.
Where are you, Kenny?
Here I am. I'm okay. So I put should be back. There we go.
Yeah,
So
there you are.
I put together a show to promote the book, and then I decided I wanted to do this at a higher level. So I reached out to an agent who I have right now, but he wouldn't take me. He has like big authors, and I mean the number one in every field that they're in, and he said, "Look, Kenny, everybody thinks they can speak. It's not that easy." So he gave me homework. I came back 3 years later.
Oh.
3 years later, I had spent thousands. I mean, I might have spent 35,000 on getting myself filmed when I was speaking. I got a couple of breaks. People tried to help me out. I got filmed. I kept learning. I invested in myself, and I put together a sizzle reel. If you go on my website and you go to the speaking part of my page, there's a 11-minute. Have you seen that where I'm speaking for about 11 minutes? It's kind of like a sizzle reel. Go on my website, www.kennyaronoff.com, and when you go on, there's a area that says speaking. Click on that and you'll see this great speaking reel. It's pretty amazing. Well, I had to do a lot of footage and I had to pay somebody to put that together. And then I created a whole show with pictures and movies, and I had a theme. And then I worked with writers, and I'm about to work with a third writer this week, and just I had to redefine what my message is. What do I want you to learn? But what is it that's inside me that is passionate, that I really believe in, and that I learned from this amazing career? Because when you stand up there, I can't just tell stories. And my speech is about realizing your purpose in life. Who are you? Basically, what I'm saying, everybody, is what are you friggin' doing here in this short little life that we have? Why are you here? What are you doing here? What's your purpose? How are you being the best person you can be, which will have impact on people around you that will make this world a better place? That's basically my main theme. And then it's about teamwork and leadership and, collaboration and connecting and co-elevation and innovation and creativity, and always trying to be the best you can be at, and finally adapting and adjusting over and over again to stay relevant in your business. Now, in my business, it went from LPs to cassettes to CDs to free music. Free music. Our industry got destroyed. That's why I have this studio. I adjusted 12 years ago. I adjusted and adapted to what was happening. I didn't sit there and sulk about it. I took action. So now, when this COVID came, I'm in here every week recording because I'd already established that. The day COVID came, I started looking into investing in lights and sound so I can do virtual speaking from my studio, because nobody can hire me to do speaking in person right now because of COVID. So I've already had one speech, a virtual speech, and I'm going to do another one in January, and that paid for all my investment. So that's part of my message, is to adapting and adjusting. So long answer to your question, but it's became a second business for me that I really truly feel in my heart is something I love doing. It's similar to playing music, because when I play music, it makes me feel good, but then I love that it makes other people feel good. So when I speak, I'm up front. It makes me feel good that I can share things I believe in, truly believe in, and can impact people. And when after a show, if somebody says, "Wow, I was so inspired," that's as good as me performing at a concert. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's really cool reading your book, because I came of age when John Cougar was John Cougar, and by the time I got through college, he was Mellencamp, and Lonesome Jubilee came out, and Cherry Bomb, man, top shelf. And I could hear all those songs, and most of them you were involved with. I could hear your work as I was reading. I mean, that's so effing cool. I just, the
Yeah,
experience of that book was mind blowing, because I'm truly a fan. I never knew who you
yeah,
were. So right
that's
on, Joe.
cool.
I mean, that was
Thank you.
great. And that it felt like, you wanted to, you wanted to be a Beatle, and then you got to work on Mellencamp's Abbey Road. Man, congratulations.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Uh,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for those tracks. They really, I could hear your drumming, dude, without even playing it.
Isn't it wild
And it's
how,
probably one of my most played tracks.
when I recorded Hurt So Good, I think I said it in the book, where that was that epiphany where I went, wow, man, you don't have to play a lot of notes. You can feel, because it's so simple. The drums is just boom, ba, boom, ba, boom, ba da, ba da. And I was thinking, wow, man, all these other drummers like John Bonham from Zeppelin, or Stu Cope from The Police, or all these drummers get to play all these cool parts. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I can feel Kenny Aronoff. I can feel his spirit. That's more powerful than fancy licks. And that's when I realized, wow, this is heavy. And so what you're saying is that people will say, oh my God, I think that's Kenny on that record. And they're right. That's powerful, that you can hear a person's personality through a radio speaker in a car.
Mhm.
Wow, that's powerful. You know. So yeah, that yeah, the journey through John Mellencamp was musically educational, but also personally very, very heavy. as you can tell.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is tricky. It was the three most challenging parts in the book was how to describe my relationship with John and getting out of it. I had to explain that he was an intense mofo, but I couldn't lie and sugarcoat it. But I didn't. I defended him. I told the story that would kind of express that he was not an easy guy, but I defended him in that, like, well, he was going through a divorce. The record company was about to drop him. They changed his name from John Mellencamp to Johnny Cougar. I'd be pissed off too. So that's how I got around that. But if people who know me, and everybody in the music business knows that John's tough, I couldn't sit there and go, oh, yeah, everything was great. Because once they see that I'm lying, they're not going to believe one thing I say in the book. So I sat in my office in the dark and had to think about this. How can I be authentic, sincere, and describe my relationship with John and what I went through? And the same with my divorces. I had to, people are going to wonder, well, I can't not talk about that I was divorced twice. Those were tricky moments, but I felt like I did a great job. As a matter of fact, I called up my second wife and said, hey, this is what I'm writing about. What do you think? And she asked me to change a few things. And so I said, okay. And then I called up the publisher and they said, no, it's already gone to it's already going to and I said, you know what? How much is it going to cost me to change it? I said, look at my ex-wife. If it makes her happy, I want her to be happy. I don't want her to be embarrassed. Her mom's going to read it. Then I called up her mom and explained, listen, I said, Marilyn, this book is pretty wild. And I just want, she goes, oh, Kenny, you're in rock and roll. Don't worry about it. So I was like, woo. And so I think it was, there was, my second wife, Liz, was like, well, in the book it says this happened, but we were still married. I said, tell your mom, sometimes when they make movies, they move scenes around just because it flows better. Tell her, I says, they'll do anything they can to make it a great story. So tell her that they twisted a few things. Her mom still loves me and calls me up, so we're good. Everybody's
All right.
happy.
She sounds like the heroine who put you straight about the Bruno,
Which one? The mom or the wife?
the wife.
Yeah, well, she's a cool lady. Mom knows her. Yeah, she's great. She's the coolest. She's remarried, doing well. She's great. She's totally cool.
Well, I appreciate it, Kenny. You including some personal stories like that, so it wasn't just all the business. It made it brought
Yeah.
light. It made it real when you mentioned your mom a couple times, or your brother growing up, or
Yeah.
and then the wives and things. That was really good. There's one part that I remember that just really stuck with me, and it's this little tiny action that happened, and it was a nuance you were playing. And it wasn't, see, we walked into a studio. I can't remember who it was with.
Yeah.
I may have been with Stevie Nicks. And they asked you to come up with, your beat and the bass, and it wasn't working. And you switched hands to the
Yeah.
left hand, and boom, it exploded. That just
yeah.
resonated. Like, wow, that's amazing that one change made such a difference.
Yeah, that exactly. And sometimes it's just that was Hurt So Good, John Mellencamp, and I was trying to dumb my playing down to learn how to serve. When I got fired from that first record, I'd only been in the band for 5 weeks. I was devastated. I didn't know it at the time, and I didn't mention it in the book, but the reason why I said no to John when he told me to go home was because I had realized this is my purpose in life. I turned down the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. I turned down certainty for complete uncertainty to go into rock and roll. And how do you make it in rock and roll? Who the hell knows? So I turned down certainty, a paycheck to be in the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra, to move back home humbly and practice 8 hours a day, moved to Indiana. 3 years later, I finally get in the Mellencamp band, and in 5 weeks, I'm in the studio making a record. John's on MTV, we're on the radio and all this stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've made it. I'm telling everybody I've made it. And then I get fired after 2 days of recording. I am devastated. And what was happening was I had decided, this is it. I've made it. This is where I belong. And now somebody's trying to take it away from me. And there was no way that was going to happen. That's why I went into the fight or fight mode. John says, go home. I says, no, I'm not going home. So long story short, I stayed there. I learned. But that's when when I finally went home 4 weeks later, I go, I have to learn how to serve this guy's music. I have to learn to get my drum parts on his record, to get on the radio, to become #1 hits. So I started practicing left-handed, and to simplify my playing, because I'm right-handed, so I'm less technical left-handed. And John, when he came in with that song "Hurt So Good" and played it, and I started playing, what I said in the book was, John immediately went, "Whoa, what's that?" And I went, "Oh, this beat, I play this all the time." But what happened? Left-handed sounded kind of looser and more amateur, had a feel to it that John loved. So I recorded that song, and it was a #2 hit single, and Jack and Diane was #1, and that record that launched my career. That completely, John Mellencamp's biggest single, biggest money-making song was Jack and Diane, which I basically saved the day. That song was not even going to be on the radio. It was on the record. It was off the record, not even going to be there. So I came up with the parts that made that a hit, and basically made him millions of dollars, and that's just the way it is. It's my job. So that was an incredible life lesson of how heavy my parts can be and influence what everybody does.
So Kenny, did you ever resent that? There's I guess it was in the Jersey Boys where there was a lot of tension about who was getting the money, and
Yeah.
was that
Oh,
a
yeah.
problem with some of the bands you worked with?
Well, with Mellencamp, there's no question. I mean, John would, once I made him millions of dollars coming up with a drum part for Jack and Diane, every time he would play a song for the next 15 years, he'd go, "What do you got, Kenny?" In other words, do it again. So technically, I should have gotten publishing, I think. I should have gotten publishing, which is royalties and residuals. But this was not the guy I wasn't working with the type of guy that does it. U2, they split everything 4 ways except for publishing. If Edge and Bono write a song, they get the publishing. But they split everything else. REM used to split everything 4 ways. That's what kept them unified. Bob Seger he paid his band a lot. Remember, it was Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. So the bass player in the Silver Bullet Band went, "Bob, you got to give us some more money. We've been with you for 20 years. We're gone away from our families as much as you are. We're on stage. We're not asking for publishing, but..." And so, you know what? Bob went, "You're right." And he wrote them big checks. Paul McCartney does it. John Mellencamp does not do that. So I could do this. This is what would happen. "Hey, John, I think I should get some publishing on Jack and Diane." And basically he'd go, "F you, you're fired."
Yeah.
And so I knew that. So you have to pick your battles. That just wasn't the band where you could, I mean, I could have asked him, but there's a good chance, because the drummer that came before me did that. He asked for publishing and got fired. So I decided I'm not going to make my big money in this band. I'm going to make it later on. So the cool thing is I have no resentment. I don't feel like I have to forgive anybody, but maybe for myself for some of the things I've done. But pretty much I'm cool. I'm real cool. John was a dick, and yeah, there was some traumatic moments being in that band, but I look at it as an incredible growth as a human being. Now I look back and go, I learned a lot of stuff, and I have performed with him, like at the Kennedy Center Honors and Music Cares honoring Bob Dylan, and we've talked, and he's not comfortable in his skin, but man, I have no regrets. All I look at is the positive stuff.
Did you ever have an agent early on? Because it sounded like you kept getting these calls and had to decide, do I play with Elton John or do I go somewhere else?
I didn't have a manager. A lot of people wanted to manage me. And I kept thinking, well, why do I need a manager? Everybody's calling me anyway. The only thing I could have possibly done is if I'd had a manager, maybe he would have negotiated a better deal, but I was doing pretty good. I was always getting the top dollar in the band. Uh, and still do, because at this point it's like, come on. I'm a veteran at this point. But the thing is, yeah, I was approached. There was one thing I didn't put in the book that I look back and go like, wow. There was a guy who's a manager, Michael Littman. He's like he's maybe $500 million now. He managed all the producers, the big producers that would produce records. So a producer typically would get 3 points. That's 3%, when they produce a record. So I'm on 3 records back behind me that sold 40 million copies each. 2 Celine Dion records and Bat Out of Hell 2, Meatloaf. With I'll Do Anything for Love, but I Won't Do That. If you're a producer and you're getting 3 points on that record, that's basically 3 cents times 40 million. That's a lot of money. Now, the agent, the manager, he would get a percentage of that, 15%, 15 and sometimes 20. So he has all these big producers. So he made a lot of money. Then he managed George Michael. Then he managed some other bands. And he invited me in the 80s into his office. I get a phone call. Michael Lippin wants to talk to you. So I drive to his office. I go into the office. He says, come in here. Shut the door. He says, what are you doing? I says, I'm enjoying life, playing with Mellencamp, doing sessions. He says, sessions. You should be an actor. I need to get you acting lessons. Your personality. You should be an actor or a TV host. Dude, this session stuff, man, you need to be in front, not behind. And I says, but I love what I'm doing. I love it. Monday, I'm with B.B. King and Bonnie Raitt. Tuesday, I'm with Elton John. Thursday through Sunday, I'm with Bob Seger. Then I fly to Atlanta, do the Indigo Girls. Then it's Willie Nelson. And I was just having the time of my life. Now I look back and go, damn, I see what he was doing. I should have done that. I should have tried that. I should have done the acting things because I was young. And maybe I would have positioned, but I have no regrets. But I see what he was looking at the big picture. You're a big personality. I mean, I hosted Access TV. Access TV is a small network, and I'm the most visible guy on it because I do all these concerts, and they put those concerts on there. And then I do like the top 10 countdown and stuff like that. And they invited me to be the host for the 2021 season. And it was cool. And, I have a director, a producer. I'm the guy. And because I'm a speaker now, it was very natural for me. But I think that's what Michael Littman was seeing. He says, you're this guy that could be in front, not in back. But I chose not to.
Okay.
Well, you talk about that in the book, how you were playing an actor as you would walk into all these different sessions and figure out what role you would have to play.
Exactly. Yeah, I do. I look at every song as a movie. So what movie I'm in? So if I'm Robert De Niro, am I going to be the guy in The Godfather? Or am I going to be that guy in Meet the Fockers? The funny one. Which guy am I? I'm still Kenny Aronoff, and so I look at it that way because once I get my head into a character, who I am, I might play a little harder, a little softer. I might play less busy. I might change my drums to different sounds, different cymbals. The whole thing's to get into character and let that flow out of me. So everything I do comes from a place of who am I? What is this song? Listen, Avril Lavigne, I don't know if I mentioned My Happy Ending in that book. I walk into the session. Avril Lavigne has done her whole record, but she's trying to still write more songs. She writes 3 songs. They call me up. I come in. There's a song called My Happy Ending. I think that's it. And all there was acoustic guitar, a vocal that she didn't sing. It was the producer, this guy, and a click track. And it sounded like a click track is the thing I play to. It's like got. I lock right up with it. And because it's a demo, I'm going to play to the click track because everybody is going to overdub to me later. This is me playing to a demo that went like a foot ba ba da 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 da. It's kind of nice. So I said to the producer, "What movie are you in? What is this? What do you want me to do with this? Sounds kind of light." She says, "Look, dude, I want you to make this rock like in a stadium." So I'm like, "Whoa, okay." That is nothing like what I'm hearing. So I get out there and I write these parts and I go over it with the producer and I went, okay, here we go. And it's like I'm thinking I'm in a stadium and I'm hearing his kind of pretty parts, but I'm like, as an actor, acting like I'm in a stadium, knowing that they're gonna play to me. And that was a trip because what I'm hearing is only guiding me. Don't be influenced by what you're hearing. You're an actor and you're playing this role. You're Arnold Schwarzenegger in whatever, you know. But the here I'll go one step further.
Fascinating.
That song went to number one. It went to number one. And the chances of that song being successful is probably 1 out of 100 because Avril wasn't even there. If let's just say she had a bad day singing, she could do this. She could say to the producer, I don't like the tempo. I don't like Kenny's drum sounds. I don't like Kenny's feel. I could have been the scapegoat for so many things. And then everybody overdubbed to me, and it worked. That'd be like shooting a deer in the dark, blindfolded in the woods. I mean, it's just not, it was a miracle. And it sounds like we were all playing together. Unbelievable.
What's the song?
It's
What's the
called My Happy Ending. Let me double check. Avril Lavigne. It's great because you'll hear I start playing. It starts my happy then I stop and it's a verse without me. Then I come back in and it's like I'm in a kick's butt. You'll hear it. You can hear me going for it. Now I'll have to tell you something else that's more technical. If I play the drums to a click track and I'm perfectly spot on, and a bass player or guitar player come in and they play on top of the beat, a little of a head, it'll make me sound like I'm behind. And there's nothing I can do about it because I'm not there. And do you know the singer Michelle Branch?
Yeah.
She's part of that whole group, the Michelle Branch, Avril Lavigne, Alanis Morissette, when the girl thing became big. So this was a transition. Usually I record with a whole band and they got to get the drum track first. And then they overdub to that if they want to make any fixes. This was a complete flip. I walk in the studio and I'm hearing this demo and I look at the producer and went, wow, this sounds like it's finished. He says it is. You're overdubbing to everything. All right. So that means I had to get very creative, come up with the right bass drum sound, the right snare sound to fit into the sonics, to fit in all these 6 guitar tracks, keyboards, loops, and I'm like inventing. I'm being creative. I'm solving a problem right at that moment. Try this bass drum, try that snare drum. How's it sound? No, we finally get it. I finally get the take. I know it's good. But I look in the control room and I'm like, uh-oh. So that's when I take my headphones off, put them down, I walk right into the room and I go to the producer, John, is there a problem? He says, well, you tell me. I'm like, uh-oh. Woo! So the red light goes off in my head. I'm like, okay. Now I get very serious. I'm like, okay, you got to solve this. I go to the console, the control board, and I go to the engineer, give me the drums and give me the click track. Whew, I'm perfect. Give me the loops, the click track, and the drums. Whew, I'm perfect. But I sound behind the beat. So somebody is rushing. So I says, give me the rhythm guitars with the click track and the drums. Oh, he's rushing. Well, the producer is the one that recorded the guitars. So now I've got to get into a political. I call myself Kenny Kissinger at that point. Now I've got to negotiate. So by the way, Mom, this is John Shanks. So I go to
Thank
John.
you, dear.
Yeah. So I go to John. I say, John goes, wow, it seems like I'm on top. I went, don't worry about it, John. You're fine. Because he's the producer. And I don't want him to replace me. So I go out there. So here's what I do. We have a mixer out there.
You
I
can
turn the loops down. I get rid of everything. Just have the voice and those guitars. And I play with them. And all of a sudden, touchdown. Now I make it sound we're playing together. The big takeaway here is I am a problem solver, and I have to recognize when there's a problem before they do. So and so now I have so much experience, I can predict, I can see what's happening, and so I lead them to solving the problem, or I solve it. There's so much more to it, you know.
Oh.
So Kenny, when you played in front of Vladimir Putin, did you remember that Shostakovich got sent to a labor camp because Stalin didn't like?
No, I didn't know that story. That's amazing. Wow.
So you're not going to play at his 70th birthday party?
Hey, my mom wouldn't want me to go, but I would love to be there. Dude, dude, I played the Kremlin twice. I did it last year, but it was the craziest thing. We're rocking, and I thought after the first song, like, were they looking for a different band, like Van Halen or something? I mean, what's going on? We play another song, Silence. We're like, then I start figuring out. I went, these are the Russians. The Russians, they do things differently. So I'm like, wow. And finally, after 45 minutes, as I said in the book, they all jump up. And then you have to understand, Putin was there, but the real leader, whatever his name is, the real leader was there, but Putin was more influential than that leader. We found out afterwards what really went on. And I went, oh, okay, of course. Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I like the fact that I got to experience playing with Putin because, you know, he's a music lover. He actually picked the set list. He said to John, the word got back to John Fogerty. He wants you to do Ramble Tamble. He wants you to do this and he wants you to do that. And those are actually cool songs. So I was like, wow, okay, cool. Yeah. Never met him, but I sort of saw him out there. Yeah, I know. The stories I didn't put in the book are ridiculous. Do you guys know who the band Foo Fighters is at all?
Yes, of course.
So
Yes.
Dave Grohl, drummer for Nirvana, one of the biggest. So I just recorded with the Buddy Rich Big Band in the early '90s, and I was pretty hungover the next day. And I'm checking out the hotel in New York, and all of a sudden this skinny little guy comes up to me with long hair. It's Dave Grohl. I mean, he's skinny. He goes, "Hey Kenny, it's Dave Grohl." I went, "Oh man, how you doing, man?" He says, "Dude, are you in town tonight?" I said, "Nah, I'm checking out. I kind of got a big hangover. I got to go home. I got, you got to stay, man. You got to stay." I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, I got a showcase. I got this new band, and we're going to try to get a record deal." I said, "What's the name of the band?" He said, "Foo Fighters." And I went, "Wow, that's kind of an interesting name. Good luck." 10 years. Oh, my God. Unbelievable. Now, they sell out stadiums.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, my God. It was like...
Big time.
And he's still my friend. Like, he'll text me. He texted me about 5 weeks ago. He's doing this drum off with this little girl from England. He says, "Kenny, Dave, what's up, man?" He says, "Hey, man, I want you to play on this drum off thing." And then we went back and forth and back and forth. And he's the nicest guy. I mean, there's guys like him. It makes the whole business like so cool. Last
Kenny,
night.
it's a very inspirational story.
Thank
Your
you.
hard work and persistence.
Yeah. Yep, and I'm still in the game. I'm still very, very relevant and still love what I do. I'm just motivated by the opportunity, it's just, I could go on and on.
Would you think about doing another book?
I did do another book 2 years ago. It's done, but it's more of an inspirational book. It crushes lazy people. It's very, very it's basically, it starts off like, are you living your life loud or are you dying on the vine? Because most people are dying on the vine.
Yeah.
He says, if you're waiting for success to happen, it ain't going to happen. Nobody's born successful. If you're waiting for it to fall in your lap, it ain't going to fall in your lap. And if you're waiting for somebody to give it to you, nobody's going to give it to you. If you wait too long and I see it, I'm going to take it from you. That's how it starts.
I could
Laying
see
it
you
out
doing
there.
commencement addresses.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what I decided, here's what I'm going to do. I'm part of this men's group, Metal International. There's all these entrepreneurs from all over the world. It's fascinating. And leaders and everything they do, everything from doctors to scientists to astronauts to athletes. And then I'm the rock guy. So there's a publishing company that's pretty successful. What I'm going to do is I need to get some of my new concepts into the book. I'm going to have them rework it. I wrote it with a writer. I got it edited. Not happy yet. This book has to be the book that when I'm done speaking every night, that book is in the back of the room and it relates to my speech.
Yeah.
So I'm going to update it and have this guy, and I heard that this guy has his published company. You don't pay him anything. He just gets it done, gets it packaged, and then he gets a percentage. That's what I want. And I will put out another book. I've got to finish that book.
What did you say the name of that men's group is?
It's called Metal, METAL International. Metal International. I mean, it's phenomenal. You got, and there's meetings you have to be invited in, and they go through this. It's phenomenal. I get to listen to a guy like William Quigley, 7-time billionaire who created, he's so involved with the blockchain. He can tell us what's going on with finances all over the world, what country's doing what, stuff that you will never hear. I just find it fascinating. He knows the banking systems because he deals with all of them. It's phenomenal. He can tell you what currency's moving and what's controlling. It's just that's just one guy. It's unbelievable. So I just love to be around those people and learn from them because they're the best at what they do. So, well, listen, I actually have another meeting in about 20 minutes. It's about a thing called OMG VIP, where people will sign up and be able to be in a group like this, or they pay for one-on-one with me. And we're doing a sound check and a visual check right here in my studio. So I'm going to have to run. But,
That's great.
man, it was so
Thank you.
nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. So
so
nice to
much,
have
Jen.
you and feel
Yes.
your energy. And it was really great
Yeah.
of you. Thank you
And
so
thank-
much.
No,
Yeah,
Well,
I'm
I got
revitalized.
I got all my energy from my mom. She thinks she got it from me,
Yes.
but I got it from her.
Yay, moms.
Yeah.
That's
I-
awesome.
Hey, Ellie.
Thank you.
Bye
Well,
bye,
Thank you,
Ken.
Kenny.
So
All right.
cool.
Come see me.
Yes.
Go see your
Call your
mother.
mother. Call
Hey.
your mother.
I will, man. I'll come in with one of those bodysuits. No,
Right.
like Darth Vader. If you see
Yes.
Darth Vader show up.
Yes.
Well, listen, you guys, it was so cool to be. Anything related to Stockbridge means so much to me, and sometimes I can't believe I even wrote a book. But this is an honor. Who would have thought? I used to go to
Thank
that
you.
library. Crazy.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
take care, everybody. Mom, I'll call you later.
Bye bye, darling.
You
Love
better.
you.
Bye. And you can,
Bye.
if you want me to come back anytime, I'm willing to come back.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
See you.
Bye,
Bye.
Kenny.
All
Bye.
right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Allowing.
Oh, are you there?
I'm
Yeah.
here. Is
He's
everyone
like,
still
"Ah."
here?
Yes.
yep.
It worked. It worked. He never
It worked. Ellie, it was wonderful. Thank
Ellie,
you so
he's
much.
really a 10.
Ellie.
had nothing to do with me. Maria asked me if we could read his book, and then I don't know whether you said so or
It had everything to do with you. You're his mother.
That's
Well,
right,
he's-
Nancy.
he's different. He's special.
Without you, there would be no Kenny.
You're darn right. I tell him everything.
Good.
Well, you can't deny that, Ellie. You
What?
can't deny, without you, he wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
You and Art really make some lovely people.
Well, his twin brother is much quieter, much more reserved. He's a psychoanalyst, but when they get together, they revert back to 5 years old.
That's great.
Puppies.
great.
They were our firstborn, and people would say, how can you do that? And Art would say, compared to what? We never had a one child. And they ran around like you hear him talking. He got out of the womb and ran and never stopped.
And he's running
I
still.
enjoy him
It's great.
enormously.
Very
Lovely,
impressive.
lovely man.
He is. Yeah,
Thank
a lot
you.
of fun. Thank you.
Thank
Well, I
I'm
mean,
glad it worked.
after that wonderful, wonderful meeting, our next book, I mean, that was just really top. So we're going to, Nancy, I don't know if you want to join us again. I'm going to just announce what our next book is going to be, but thank you for joining us. So we're going to do something a little bit different. And it's something we've been sort of talking about for a long time, and we haven't done it, but we're going to do it this time. We're going to read a graphic novel.
Oh,
And
yeah.
What's
yeah, we've
that?
been talking about it, and I've been
Comic
you know,
books.
yeah, I've been back and forth trying to find a graphic novel that's not too heavy, not too juvenile, not too, I don't know. Anyway, I thought this was just fun. And I've asked a bunch of people, and this is what we're going to do. And I think during the holidays, it's a very manageable book to read. We're going to read Going Into Town, A Love Letter to New York. It's by Roz Jazz. I don't know if anyone's ever read anything by this author. But anyway, so I've ordered them and they should be in soon, and it'll be fun to read it. It's not very long. I figured during the holidays, we want something light and fun and not long. Because in February, I've got a good book that I'm teeing up. So I will send out obviously information about this next coming book, but what a great book club. And Ellie, thank you so much for letting us read the book and inviting your son to join us. And it was really, really special. It was very
Thank
special.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope you
Thank you.
enjoyed him. I
Thank
continue enjoying him to this day. He wears me out
It's a
sometimes. but
pleasure.
I enjoy
It's an
it.
enthusiastic, open as a book.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's there wherever he
Well,
is.
you know that old expression,
Authentic.
what is on your
Yes.
mind is on your mouth. That's Kenny.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
He's,
great.
he's noisy, but he's
Yeah.
lots of fun too.
Yeah.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Well, I
And
just want to wish everybody happy holidays and be
Thank
safe
you,
and be
Maria.
healthy and stay well. And we'll be in touch.
Everybody who is celebrating Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. I'm gonna
Thank you.
I'm having a potato latte in a little while.
Send them
My
to
friend
my
is
house,
doing-
Lily, and I don't
I
cook.
should. I wish I had some here. Yeah,
Well, I get as far as lighting a candle. That's about it.
that's a nice
Well,
thing.
all of you keep well. I love this.
Thank you.
We have to keep it up because it's my passage to the outdoor world. I don't go out very much, so
Yep. We will. Connection is key.
you betcha.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Be well, everybody.
I have
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.